Alright, this will help the audio sync up. Alright, I'm sure that's perfect. Hey, quick disclaimer. I don't usually make these kind of videos. My content is usually just funny builds, and then getting messaged by DE telling me not to make funny builds. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Bye-bye. Love you. Kisses. I have a lot to say in this video, so let's start from the top. Warframe is a third-person looter shooter. You kill enemies and they drop resources. Simple concept. Now what if I told you there is something that maybe only 1% or less of players know about that completely changes the game? What if I told you Warframe has an FPS problem? Frame rate, or frames per second, is the frequency at which images or frames are displayed at a given time. If you have high FPS, the game looks smoother, and if you have low FPS, the game looks choppier. And I know I'm gonna have people saying, but it's not like it changes the game, who cares about FPS? We'll get to that, but before we do, we need to talk about what is a log file. A log file is typically used by software or operating systems to keep track of events that occur. Warframe is no different. Everything you do, every event that happens or is going to happen is, as the name suggests, logged in this file. Everything happens here. And if you make an input that interacts with an object, say shooting an enemy, that event is logged. Same with moving, same with enemies spawning, and sometimes even how they spawn. And this is the part where I put a disclaimer so DE doesn't atomic drop my nuts. Do not open, save, modify, or share your log file. Your log file contains extremely sensitive information such as IP, MAC address, hardware information, and a lot more. Okay, I'm done explaining all the technical stuff. Now let's get to what really matters. What's the connection between FPS and your log file? Well, this is the update rate of a typical log file slowed down. You see how it's updating constantly? Now look what happens here. The update rate looks erratic and inconsistent. What changed? In the first example, the FPS was at a steady 144, and in the second example, it's at a steady 30 FPS. So what can we conclude from this? Even if we forget what's physically in the log file, we can determine that the update rate of the game is proportional to your frame rate, meaning the game processes events at the rate of your FPS. So now, after all that, we finally get to, in simple terms, more FPS equals more game updates. More game updates means faster inputs, an increased fire rate cap, and faster hit registration. And more importantly, it means more enemy spawns, which in turn means more resources. I think you know where I'm getting at. If you have more FPS, you're fine. But if you have bad FPS, the worse your update rate is and everything becomes unstable. But if you think that only high FPS gives you an advantage, you'd be wrong. Because what happens, it's something that needs a lot of game updates to work, suddenly stops working. Let's say maybe a sort of harm limiting. And I think I'm gonna stop there because even though this has been said in multiple YouTube videos and plastered all over Reddit, I genuinely don't feel comfortable talking about stuff like this because DE has made discussing anything they don't understand into a minefield. And honestly, I already feel like I got a target on my back, so I'm just gonna move on to the next topic. Oh, and by the way, if you think this is bad, just wait, cause Warframe works a little differently than other online games because, to my knowledge, it doesn't have a hard-coded tick rate. I'll try to break it down. The host player has the main log file, and other players' games are updated entirely based on that information. And the time it takes for those two files to communicate is referred to in-game as ping. It's a sort of pseudo peer-to-peer system. This means if the host has worse FPS, they're locked to the host update rate. Everyone's game is going to feel much worse. This also means that anyone playing as host can just grief their lobby by intentionally setting their frame rate lower, or unintentionally by having older hardware. There are some obvious solutions to this, but they require some thought and commitment. Either make a stable update rate so that FPS doesn't influence the game as much, or the more expensive idea, which I don't think is going to happen, would be to finally kill off the 2010s peer-to-peer type model and have actual dedicated servers for lobbies, even solo lobbies. Because you know what happens when FPS is linked to the update rate of the game? That system gets abused and torn apart. You want to know what boosts FPS? Looking at a wall, not loading geometry. Players are rewarded for either having the most FPS or by manipulating the game to get more or less FPS. It's really up to the E to decide what to do. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. This is probably a one-off video, and if I don't get banned, I will go back to making funny thumbnails and video builds. Big thanks to Nova Umbral for helping out with the video script, because I cannot write, and honestly, I hope this doesn't sound as bad as I think it does, because I hate scripted videos. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.